the girl who saw what darkness tried to hide. The night the Vampire King first noticed her was the same night the world nearly lost him. No one knew it yet. Not the council of ancient vampires who feared him. Not the Mafia families who secretly paid tribute to him. Not the city that slept peacefully above the underground empire of blood and power. And certainly not the poor human girl who was about to change everything. It began with poison. Not the loud, dramatic kind. The quiet kind. The slow kind. The kind that kills trust first and body second. King Lucien Varcolac had ruled the northern vampire dominion for nearly 4 centuries. To humans, he was nothing more than a rumor whispered in crime circles. The unseen power behind certain empires, the shadow that made other monsters behave. To vampires he was law, cold, untouchable, merciless when needed, but fair. And that was why many feared him more than they hated him. For months, however, something had been wrong. His senses, sharper than any predator alive, had been fading. His night vision had dulled. His strength fluctuated. And worst of all, he felt tired. A vampire king does not feel tired. At first he suspected an enemy clan, then ancient magic, then betrayal within his council. But the truth was far more personal, and far more dangerous. On a rainy Thursday evening, Lucien attended a high-level meeting inside a private Mafia-owned casino. Humans believed they owned it. They did not. Lucien sat in the VIP balcony, overlooking the glittering chaos below. His black suit was perfectly tailored, his dark hair brushed back, his pale skin almost glowing under golden chandelier light. His expression was unreadable, a mask perfected over centuries. Beside him stood his human wife, Isabella. Beautiful, elegant, gentle. Or so everyone believed. She held a crystal glass of emerald-colored health tonic, something she had insisted he drink daily for strength. "Drink," she whispered sweetly. "You've looked exhausted lately." Lucien took the glass. He paused. The smell. There was something wrong. But before suspicion could fully form, the doors burst open downstairs. A small human girl ran inside. Security chased her. Guests shouted. Lucien stood instantly, his predator instinct snapping awake. The girl looked no older than 9. Soaked from rain. Wearing oversized thrift store clothes. Shoes mismatched. Hair messy from wind and hunger and survival. But her eyes locked onto his like she had been searching only for him. Security grabbed her arm. She screamed, "Let me talk to him." The casino froze. No one spoke to Lucien Varcolac like that. Security prepared to drag her out. Then the girl shouted words that changed fate. "You're not blind. Your wife is putting something in your food." Silence detonated across the casino. Lucien's world stopped. Isabella's hand tightened on his arm, just slightly. But Lucien felt everything. Every micro tremor. Every shift in her breathing. Every spike in her pulse. Fear. Real fear. Lucien raised one hand. Security froze instantly. "Bring her," he said quietly. The girl was dragged upstairs, shaking but defiant. She stood in front of him, small, fragile, but unbreakable. "What is your name?" Lucien asked. "Amara." "Why would you say such a thing?" She swallowed. "Because I see things others don't." Lucien leaned closer. "And what do you see?" She pointed at the glass in his hand. "That will make you weak." Isabella laughed lightly. Perfectly. Believably. "She's a street child, Lucien. Probably hungry. Hallucinating." But Lucien wasn't listening to Isabella. He was watching Amara. No fear of him. No awe. Just concern. That was new. Dangerous. Rare. He lifted the glass slowly. Then while everyone watched, he dropped it. The tonic shattered across marble flooring. Isabella froze. Lucien smiled slightly. "Take the girl to my private suite. Feed her. Dry her clothes." He turned to Isabella. "We need to talk." Amara sat on a velvet couch she was afraid to touch. Servants brought food. Real food. Warm food. She tried not to cry while eating. She hadn't eaten a full meal in 2 days. She was used to hunger. Used to people looking through her. Used to being invisible. But tonight, the most dangerous man in the supernatural world had listened to her. That was terrifying. And hopeful. Meanwhile, 3 floors below, Lucien and Isabella stood alone. "Explain," he said quietly. She smiled softly. "Lucien, darling, you're being paranoid." His eyes glowed faint red. "Explain." She hesitated. 1 second too long. Lucien stepped closer. "I smell chemicals in your tonic." Her face paled. "Lucien, you forget, he whispered. I am not human. Her heart rate spiked. He heard it. And in that moment, Lucien knew. Not proof, but truth. And truth was enough to begin hunting. Later that night, Lucien entered his suite. Amara stood up instantly. I'm sorry if I caused trouble, she said. Lucien studied her carefully. You may have saved my life. She shook her head. I just didn't want you to die. He frowned. Why? She hesitated, then whispered. Because my mom poisoned my dad slowly for money. Silence. Lucien felt something unfamiliar. Not pity. Not weakness. Something protective. Do you have family? He asked. My little brother. Parents? She shook her head. Just me and him. Lucien nodded slowly. And in that moment, the Vampire King made a decision he would never admit out loud. No harm would come to this girl. Not while he existed. That night, Lucien did not sleep. Instead, he ordered blood analysis on every health tonic Isabella had given him. He ordered financial surveillance on her private accounts. And for the first time in 400 years, he ordered background investigation on a human child. Not because she was a threat, because she was important. And he didn't yet understand why. Across the city, inside a hidden penthouse, Isabella stood on a private phone call. He suspects something, she whispered. A male voice answered. Then accelerate the plan. She nodded slowly. He's already weaker. Soon, he won't be able to defend himself. The voice laughed softly. Then the vampire throne becomes empty. Isabella smiled coldly. Yes. But neither of them knew. The king was already hunting. And the girl they underestimated was about to change vampire history forever. That same night, Amara slept peacefully for the first time in months. Safe, warm, protected. And somewhere deep in the ancient instincts of a vampire king, a bond had begun forming. Not love. Not yet. But something older. Stronger. Destiny. The poisoned throne and the girl in the purple hoodie. Lucien Varcolac had survived wars, betrayals, and centuries of blood-soaked politics. But nothing made his stomach turn like the idea that the danger was sleeping beside him. In the private silence of his fortress penthouse, an ancient stone structure disguised as a modern mansion, Lucien stood behind a one-way mirror while human doctors and vampire alchemists examined the shattered remains of the emerald tonic Isabella had served him for months. The results came faster than expected. A vampire physician, Dr. Soren Kale, bowed his head respectfully. Your Majesty, the liquid contains a compound that doesn't kill you outright. It weakens your optic nerves, dulls your senses, and slowly disrupts your blood's ability to regenerate. Lucien's jaw tightened. So I wasn't sick. No, Dr. Soren said carefully. You were being made vulnerable. Lucien didn't move. He didn't speak. His face remained composed, but inside him something old and volcanic shifted. A vampire king could forgive an insult. He could tolerate rebellion. But betrayal from a bond, especially a marriage bond that vampires recognized as sacred, was something else. He turned away from the mirror and stared out at the city lights. Above ground, humans lived their normal lives, laughing, eating, loving.
We're here.
Below ground, monsters wore suits, signed agreements, and destroyed each other with smiles. And now his own throne was being attacked not with swords, but with false affection. Lucien's hand curled slowly into a fist. Isabella did not create this alone, he said, voice like winter. Dr. Soren hesitated. The compound is expensive and rare. Someone with money and influence supplied it. Lucien's eyes narrowed. Or someone who wanted my crown. The doctor stepped back, wisely choosing silence. In the guest wing, Amara woke to the smell of fresh bread. For a second she panicked because peace felt unfamiliar. Then she remembered. The velvet couch, the soft blanket, the servants who didn't shove her away, the tall man with eyes like midnight who had listened to her. The vampire king. She sat up quickly. The room was luxurious enough to make her feel like a mistake. Too clean. Too quiet. Too safe. A maid entered, an older woman with kind eyes, and placed a tray on the table. Eat, sweetheart. Amara's throat tightened. I can't pay. The maid smiled sadly. No one here asked you to. Amara stared at the tray. Butter. Jam. Warm milk. Fruit. It felt like a dream she hadn't earned. And that was exactly why she didn't trust it. She ate anyway, slowly, carefully, like someone who had learned that good things disappear when you believe in them too much. When she finished, she went to the window and looked outside. Guards patrolled the grounds, silent and disciplined. They moved like soldiers, but their eyes, Some of them caught the light wrong. Amara shivered. Not human. Not all of them. The truth had been whispering at her for years, ever since the night her father died. Ever since her mother went to prison. Ever since Amara learned that monsters didn't always look like monsters. Sometimes monsters wore perfume. Sometimes monsters called you sweetheart. And sometimes, monsters ruled. Lucien arrived that afternoon. He didn't knock. The doors opened before him as if the house itself recognized his authority. Amara stood up instantly, hands clenched by her sides. Lucien's gaze swept over her, taking in the oversized hoodie, the thin wrists, the faint bruises of a hard life. He had seen poverty before, but not like this. Not in someone this young. "Are you comfortable?" he asked. Amara hesitated. "I'm safe." It wasn't gratitude. It was a statement of fact. Lucien found himself respecting that. "Good." He motioned to the chair across from him. "Sit." She sat carefully, posture stiff. Lucien leaned forward slightly. "You told me your mother poisoned your father." Amara's eyes dropped. "Yes." "How did you know to recognize the signs in my case?" Amara swallowed. "Because when it starts, it looks like illness. Bad luck. A mystery doctors can't solve. And the person doing it acts extra caring." Lucien felt the air grow colder around him. Amara continued quietly. "They watch you drink it. And they get nervous if you don't finish." Lucien's voice lowered. "That's exactly what Isabella did." Amara looked up sharply. "Your wife's name is Isabella?" Lucien nodded once. A strange expression flashed across Amara's face, something between alarm and recognition. Lucien caught it instantly. "You know something." Amara hesitated. Fear flickered in her eyes for the first time. Not fear of him. Fear of what she might trigger. She whispered, I've seen her before." Lucien's gaze sharpened. "Where?" Amara took a breath. "Near the East Side clinics. Where poor people go. I was outside once, trying to get medicine for my brother." Lucien's heart went still. "You have a brother?" he said, voice controlled. Amara nodded. "Jamil. He's 6. What's wrong with him?" Amara's hands tightened. "His lungs. He gets sick a lot. Sometimes he can't breathe. The hospital wants money. We don't have it." Lucien's eyes narrowed slightly, not with anger, something deeper. "How often has Isabella been near these clinics?" Amara looked down. "I saw her 3 times. Always with a man." Lucien's blood turned ice. "What man?" Amara hesitated, then said softly, "He had a scar on his neck." He smiled like he was always winning. A scar. Lucien already knew exactly who that was. Cashin Dreve. His most trusted human ally. The Mafia boss who ran half the city. A man Lucien had personally protected, elevated, and spared from vampire extermination because Cashin had once been loyal. Lucien's expression didn't change. But something inside him cracked. If Cashin was part of it, then this wasn't just betrayal. It was a coup. A human trying to take a vampire throne through poison and manipulation. That was unthinkable. And yet, humans had always been most dangerous when they believed they could control monsters. Lucien rose slowly. Amara flinched only slightly. Lucien noticed. He stopped. His voice softened, almost imperceptibly. "You did the right thing telling me." Amara looked up, confused. "Most people say that, and then they leave." Lucien stared at her as if she had spoken a language older than time. Because she had. A language of abandonment. A language he understood too well, even as an immortal king. "I am not most people," he said quietly. And he realized something in that moment. He didn't want to be. That night, Lucien ordered his shadow council to gather. In a private underground chamber lit by blue fire, the ancient vampires assembled. Dukes, generals, and blood priests whose eyes glowed with hunger and power. They bowed. Lucien stood at the center, tall and unmoving, his voice echoing like thunder through stone. "My health has been sabotaged," he said. "By someone within my inner circle." Murmurs erupted. A vampire duke stepped forward. "Your Majesty, name the traitor and we will tear them apart." Lucien's eyes flashed. "Not yet." Another voice hissed, "If it is your queen." Lucien's gaze sliced through the room. Silence fell instantly. "I will decide her fate," he said coldly. "And until I have proof that cannot be denied, no one moves." A general bowed. "As you command." Lucien turned. "But understand this, someone is attempting to weaken the throne. If I fall, chaos follows. Human hunters rise. Rival clans invade." He paced slowly. "So we will not simply punish. We will expose. We will dismantle every thread of this conspiracy. A blood priest spoke softly. And the human girl? The one who warned you. Lucien paused. The room tensed. To the council she was irrelevant. A fragile human. A replaceable creature. Lucien's voice dropped into something dangerously calm. She is under my protection. The council exchanged uneasy glances. One duke frowned. Your Majesty, humans are unpredictable. Weak. A liability. Lucien stepped closer, his aura pressing down like a storm. So was I, when I first rose from the grave. No one spoke after that. In the mansion above, Isabella played her role perfectly. She arrived with flowers, perfume, and a smile that could fool angels. My love, she cooed, stepping into the house like she owned it. You've been distant. Lucien sat in a chair, relaxed as if nothing had changed. Isabella approached and placed a kiss on his cheek. Lucien didn't react. She pulled back just slightly. A flicker of irritation crossed her eyes, gone instantly. Then she noticed something. A small pair of shoes near the stairway. Child-sized. Isabella's gaze sharpened. Who's here? She asked lightly. Lucien smiled with the calm of a predator pretending to be harmless. A guest. Isabella's voice remained sweet. A guest? Lucien's eyes didn't blink. A child. The air shifted. Isabella's smile tightened at the edges. A child? In our home? Lucien watched her carefully. Is that a problem? Isabella laughed softly. Of course not. I love children. But her pulse betrayed her. Lucien could hear it. Fast. Uneven. Fear. Lucien leaned back. She's staying. Isabella's eyes flashed. Why? Lucien's voice stayed gentle. Because I want her to. The silence after that was sharp enough to cut. Isabella swallowed her anger and forced her smile wider. Then I can help take care of her. Lucien's gaze was a blade hidden in velvet. You will not go near her. Isabella's smile froze. For the first time in years, Lucien saw the real Isabella, behind the perfume, behind the softness. A woman who wanted control. A woman who hated obstacles. A woman who would destroy a child if that child threatened her future. Isabella's voice trembled slightly. Lucien, you're scaring me? Lucien tilted his head. Good. Later, in the servant hallway, Isabella cornered a maid. Who is the child? She whispered harshly. The maid hesitated. She's a poor girl the king brought. Isabella's eyes narrowed. Where is she sleeping? The maid swallowed. Guest wing. Isabella grabbed her wrist. Listen carefully. You will tell me everything she says. Everything she does. Or you will lose this job. The maid's eyes filled with fear. Yes, ma'am. Isabella released her and walked away, heels clicking like a countdown. Meanwhile, Amara sat on the guest bed, holding a blanket around her shoulders. A servant had offered new clothes. Amara refused. She didn't want to feel like she belonged here. Because belonging meant attachment. And attachment meant pain when it ended. She stared at the mirror on the wall. In it, she saw a small girl who looked too tired for her age. And behind her eyes, something else. A whisper. A strange pull she couldn't explain. Sometimes late at night, she dreamed of a castle made of black stone. She dreamed of a crown soaked in moonlight. She dreamed of a voice calling her name, though no one had ever called her by anything other than kid, or girl, or hey you. Amara rubbed her arms, trying to warm herself. The air suddenly cooled. Not normal cold. The kind that felt like the world holding its breath. The lights flickered. Amara's heart raced. Then she heard it. A soft scratching at the window. She turned slowly. The curtains moved. And a shadow slid across the glass. Amara stepped back. The window creaked open by itself. A figure stepped inside. Not human. Tall, pale, dressed in dark armor that looked ancient. His eyes glowed crimson. He smiled. Human, he purred. You are in a place you should not be. Amara's voice barely worked. Who are you? The vampire's smile widened. Someone who doesn't like humans sitting so close to a throne. Amara backed away. I didn't come for a throne. He tilted his head. Then why did the king bring you here? Before Amara could answer, the vampire moved, fast, too fast for her eyes. He grabbed her wrist. Pain shot up her arm. Amara gasped. Tell me, he hissed. What are you to him? Amara trembled. Then, without thinking, words spilled from her mouth, words she didn't recognize. A strange language. Ancient. Sure. Powerful. The vampire froze. His grip loosened as if burned. His eyes widened with disbelief. What did you just say? Amara blinked, terrified. I don't know. The vampire stepped back, shaking. That language, he whispered. It hasn't been spoken by a human in centuries. The air exploded with force. The door slammed open. Lucien stood there, eyes blazing red, aura like a storm. The vampire intruder fell to one knee instantly. My king. Lucien's voice was lethal calm. You entered my home. You touched my protected guest. The intruder's lips trembled. I only wanted to know why she is here. Lucien stepped forward. The walls seemed to vibrate. You will leave, Lucien said. And you will never return. The intruder looked up in fear. But my king, she spoke. Lucien's gaze snapped. Silence. The intruder bowed his head. As you command. In the next second, he vanished into mist and slipped out the open window like a nightmare fleeing daylight. Amara stood frozen. Her wrist hurt. Her throat felt tight. Lucien turned to her. For the first time, the cold king's expression softened. Only slightly. Are you harmed? He asked quietly. Amara swallowed.
His fate is bound to me now.
I said something.
What are you? Get away from
Lucien
him!
nodded
I am
slowly.
his salvation.
No!
Yes. Amara's voice cracked. What was it? Lucien took a breath as if the answer carried weight. It was an ancient vampire tongue, he said. A royal oath language. Amara stared at him in panic. But I'm human. Lucien's eyes narrowed thoughtfully, not in suspicion, something deeper. Then we must ask, he murmured. Why does the blood of my world recognize you? Amara trembled. I don't want this. I just want my brother safe. Lucien's expression shifted. Protective. Certain. You will have that, he said. Then after a pause, his voice lowered into something dangerously sincere. And as long as you are under my roof, no one will ever touch you again. Amara felt tears sting her eyes. Not because she believed him. Because part of her wanted to. And wanting to believe was the most dangerous feeling of all. Across the city in a private Mafia penthouse, Cassian Dreve stood with Isabella. He poured wine. Isabella sipped it, smiling coldly. The king is suspicious, she said. Cassian's eyes narrowed. Then we move faster. Isabella leaned in. There's a girl in the house. Cassian paused. A girl? Isabella nodded. She's the reason he didn't drink the tonic. Cassian's jaw tightened. Then remove her. Isabella's smile returned, sharp as a knife. With pleasure. The blood that should not exist. The storm began before sunrise. Not in the sky. In fate. Lucien stood on the highest balcony of the fortress mansion, watching dark clouds roll across the horizon. The city below still slept, unaware that its hidden ruler was preparing for war. Behind him, ancient runes glowed faintly across stone walls, protection spells written in blood centuries ago. And yet, he felt uneasy. Not fear. Never fear. But instinct. The same instinct that had kept him alive for 400 years. Someone was moving pieces against him. And now, there was Amara. The human girl who spoke a language no human should know. The girl who made ancient vampire blood react. The girl who, somehow, had already begun changing the future. Lucien closed his eyes. For the first time in centuries he wasn't thinking about power. He was thinking about protection. And that alone was dangerous. Downstairs, Amara sat at the breakfast table, staring at food she still wasn't used to. She forced herself to eat because Lucien had said once, very quietly, "You cannot protect those you love if you collapse from hunger." No one had ever said something like that to her before. People usually said, "You're a burden. You're in the way. You cost too much." But not him. And that confused her more than kindness should. She touched her wrist, the place where the intruder vampire had grabbed her last night. The skin had already healed. Too fast. She didn't notice. But Lucien had. He entered the room silently. Amara looked up immediately. "You walk like a ghost," she said. Lucien raised an eyebrow. "I am older than most ghosts." That made her almost smile. Almost. Lucien sat across from her. "You healed faster than expected," he said. Amara froze. "What do you mean?" Lucien pointed gently. "Your wrist." She looked down. The bruise was gone. Completely. Her breathing became shallow. That's not normal." Lucien studied her carefully. "No," he said. "It is not." Silence filled the space between them. Then Amara whispered, "I don't want to be something weird." Lucien leaned back slowly. "Being different," he said quietly, "does not make you wrong." She looked up at him, really looked this time. Not at the king. Not at the monster people whispered about. at the man who had lived longer than history books, and somehow understood loneliness. At noon, Lucien summoned his most trusted blood historian, an ancient vampire woman named Lady Seraphine, older than most kingdoms. She entered the private study, her silver hair braided like crown chains, her eyes glowing faint gold. "You requested ancient lineage research," she said smoothly. Lucien nodded once. "There is a human child." Seraphine's eyebrow lifted. "And?" She spoke the royal oath language. Silence. Then Seraphine laughed once, sharp, shocked. "That is impossible." Lucien didn't smile. Seraphine's expression slowly changed. "You are not joking." "No." She paced slowly. That language was only spoken by first-blood vampires and royal blood-bonded mates. Lucien's jaw tightened slightly. "Or," Seraphine added slowly, "their direct descendants." Lucien stood very still. "That is not possible," he said. Seraphine shrugged lightly. 4,000 years of history says otherwise. Lucien turned toward the window. "If she carries ancient blood, why is she human?" Seraphine's voice lowered. "Because sometimes bloodlines hide, especially during vampire purges." Lucien's eyes darkened. "If someone discovers this," Seraphine finished softly, "they would either crown her or destroy her." Lucien's voice dropped into lethal calm. "No one will touch her." Seraphine studied him carefully. Then very slowly she bowed deeper than usual, not just to her king, but to a future she was beginning to suspect. Across the city, Cassian Dreve prepared his move. Inside his penthouse war room, holographic security maps floated above glass tables. Isabella stood beside him, calm, elegant, deadly. "Tonight," Cassian said, "we remove the girl." Isabella crossed her arms. "Lucien has increased guards." Cassian smirked. "Then we don't attack the house." She turned. "Explain." Cassian pressed a button. A hospital record appeared. Jamil. Age 6. Chronic lung failure. Isabella's smile returned slowly. "Humans," she said softly. "Always predictable." That evening Amara received the call. The hospital. Jamil had collapsed. She ran straight to Lucien's office, panic breaking every wall she had built. "My brother," she choked. "He can't breathe. They need money or they won't treat him fully." Lucien stood instantly.
Hold still, the energy
"How much?"
is rising.
It hurts,
She shook her
I can't
head.
take it.
"Too
You must
much."
endure, it's almost
Lucien
over.
picked up his phone. "Prepare medical transport." Amara blinked. "What?" Lucien looked at her like the answer was obvious. "We are going." The hospital staff nearly fainted when Lucien entered. Power followed him like gravity. Within minutes, the best doctors in the region were standing beside Jamil's bed. Machines beeped urgently. Jamil's small chest struggled to rise. Amara grabbed his hand. "I'm here. I'm here." Lucien watched quietly. Something inside his ancient chest tightened. Not weakness. Recognition. Protectiveness. The lead doctor approached carefully. "His lungs are collapsing. Without specialized treatment he won't survive long term." Lucien nodded once. "Do it." The doctor hesitated. "The cost is..." Lucien handed him a black card. "Do it." No negotiation. No hesitation. Just command. Amara stared at him, tears falling silently. "Why are you helping us?" she whispered. Lucien didn't look at her. Instead, he watched Jamil breathe. Then he said something so quietly she almost didn't hear. "Because someone once saved me, when I was already lost." Midnight. Jamil stabilized. Amara fell asleep in a hospital chair. Lucien stood guard like a silent statue. And outside, assassins arrived. Not vampires. Humans trained to hunt supernatural beings. Cassian's elite unit. They moved through shadows toward the hospital wing. Inside, Lucien's eyes opened. Red. Bright. Ancient. He stepped into the hallway. The lights flickered. The temperature dropped. The assassins entered. They saw him. And froze. Because predators recognize apex predators. Lucien spoke softly. "You were sent by someone who thinks he understands monsters." No one answered. One fired. The bullet stopped midair. Fall. Lucien moved, faster than human eyes could follow. Within seconds the attackers were disarmed and unconscious. No blood spilled. Just overwhelming dominance. Lucien stood over them, voice ice cold. "Tell Cassian Dreve." "I know." Back inside, Amara woke suddenly. She looked around wildly. Lucien returned to the room. Everything calm. Everything safe. Too safe. She studied him. "You went somewhere." Lucien met her gaze. Yes. Danger? Yes. She nodded slowly, then whispered, "Thank you for not letting it reach us." Lucien said nothing, but something in his eyes softened again. Across the city, Cassian watched security footage of his failed team. His jaw tightened. "She is more important to him than we thought," he said. Isabella swirled wine slowly. "Then we stopped targeting the king." Cassian turned. "Meaning?" Isabella smiled. "We target the girl." Back at the hospital, machines hummed steadily. Jamil slept peacefully. Amara sat beside him, holding his hand. Lucien stood by the window watching moonlight. Then Amara said softly, "I don't think you're a monster." Lucien didn't turn. Many would disagree. She shook her head. "Monsters don't protect strangers." Lucien closed his eyes briefly. 400 years. Wars. Betrayals. Blood. And somehow, one human girl was making him question what he was. Dangerous. Very dangerous. But he didn't stop it. Because for the first time in centuries, the darkness inside him felt quieter. The Queen Fate chose. The night destiny revealed itself. The sky turned red. Not from fire. Not from war. From prophecy. Ancient vampires across the world felt it. A pulse in their blood, a whisper in their bones, a warning carried through centuries. Something old had awakened. Something royal. Something never meant to return. And at the center of it was a girl sitting beside a hospital bed, holding her little brother's hand. Lucien felt the shift instantly. He stood rigid beside the hospital window as the moonlight dimmed unnaturally. His chest tightened. Not fear. Recognition. Ancient instinct. The air carried a scent he had only smelled once before, the night he was crowned king. He turned slowly. Amara sat beside Jamil, humming quietly to keep herself calm. But the air around her was moving. Like invisible wind. Like power trying to remember how to exist. Lucien stepped closer. "Amara," he said quietly. She looked up, eyes wide. "I feel weird." The lights flickered. Machines beeped rapidly. Jamil stirred but didn't wake. Then Amara gasped, grabbing her chest. "It hurts," she whispered. Lucien moved instantly, kneeling in front of her. "Look at me," she tried. Tears blurred her vision. "I don't understand what's happening." Lucien's voice softened into something ancient and commanding. "Breathe. Slowly. You are safe." The air pressure in the room shifted. The temperature dropped. And then, Amara's eyes flashed silver for one single second. Lucien's heart stopped. Not physically. Emotionally. Because he knew. 4,000 years ago, the first vampire queen vanished during a civil war. Legend said her bloodline would return only when the vampire world faced collapse from inside. Lucien had never believed in prophecy. Until now. Amara collapsed forward. Lucien caught her instantly. Her pulse raced, but strong. Too strong. Vampire strong. Human fragile. Both. At the same time. The door burst open. Lady Seraphine rushed in, eyes blazing gold. She stopped dead when she saw Amara. "Oh, no," Seraphine whispered. Lucien didn't look away from Amara. "Say it." Seraphine swallowed. "If the signs are true, she is not just carrying ancient blood." Lucien's voice turned dangerously quiet. "Then what is she?" Seraphine's voice shook. "She is the last living heir of the first queen bloodline." Silence swallowed the room. Even the machine seemed quieter. Lucien's mind calculated instantly. If the council knew, if rival clans knew, Cassian knew, Amara wouldn't live a week. Across the city, alarms began ringing in vampire territories. Ancient detection runes triggered. Blood historians woke in panic. And deep underground, the Shadow Council gathered without being summoned. Because they had felt it too. The Queen bloodline had returned. Back at the hospital, Amara slowly woke. Lucien was still holding her. She blinked. "Did I faint?" Lucien hesitated. Then, for the first time, he chose honesty over protection. "Yes." She sat up slowly. "Why does everything feel louder?" Lucien exchanged a look with Seraphine. Then he said gently, "Because you are changing." Fear filled her eyes. "Into what?" Lucien paused. Then said quietly, "Into someone very important." Amara shook her head immediately. "I don't want important. Important gets people killed." Lucien felt that like a blade. Because she was right. Important had cost him everything once. He leaned closer. "Then we make sure this time, important survives." The attack came 2 nights later. Not subtle. Not hidden. Cassian and Isabella had realized time was running out. If Amara truly carried royal blood, their entire plan collapsed. So they did what desperate traitors always do. They went all in. Explosions rocked Lucien's mansion. Vampire guards fought in shadow and speed. Human mercenaries flooded the grounds. Ancient weapons clashed against modern ones. Inside the safe chamber, Amara held Jamil tightly. "I'm scared," she whispered. Jamil coughed weakly. "You always fix things." She shook her head, tears falling. "Not like this." The doors shook under impact. Outside, Lucien moved like a storm given form. Not rage. Not chaos. Precision. Every attacker neutralized in seconds. Because kings don't fight for pride. They fight for what they protect. Cassian entered the main hall, gun in hand, eyes wild.
This view
"You
never
were supposed to
ceases
fall,"
amaze me.
he shouted.
Nor I.
Lucien
especially
stepped
when
from the
shared with
shadows. "I did," Lucien said calmly. "Just not the way you planned." Cassian fired. Bullets shattered against invisible force. Cassian staggered back. "That girl changed everything." Lucien's eyes burned red. "No," he said quietly. "You revealed who you always were." Cassian lunged. Lucien moved once. Cassian collapsed. Alive. Defeated. Finished. Upstairs, Isabella ran toward the safe chamber. But Amara stepped out to meet her. Isabella froze. For a moment they just stared at each other. Then Isabella laughed softly. "So you're the little problem." Amara's voice trembled but stayed strong. "You tried to kill him." Isabella's smile turned cruel. "I tried to save myself." She stepped closer. "You think monsters protect humans forever? He will outlive you. Watch you age. Watch you die." Amara's chest tightened. Because that fear had already lived inside her. But then she remembered Jamil breathing easier. She remembered Lucien standing guard all night. She remembered someone choosing her, when no one ever had. Amara lifted her chin. "Maybe," she said softly. "But he chose to protect me anyway." The air around her pulsed. Silver light flickered faintly around her skin. Isabella stepped back, eyes wide. "That's impossible." Lucien arrived behind Amara. Isabella laughed shakily. "You would crown a human?" Lucien's voice was absolute. "I would protect what fate chose." Isabella's face twisted. And for the first time, she looked small. By sunrise it was over. Cassian arrested. Isabella taken into vampire custody. The council summoned. And Amara sat on the mansion balcony, watching sunlight touch the city. Lucien stood beside her. Silent. Present. She finally spoke. "I'm still me, right?" Lucien looked at her. Really looked. "Yes," he said. "And that is why you matter." She smiled faintly. "And you're still scary." Lucien almost smiled. Weeks later, Jamil recovered enough to laugh again. The council reluctantly accepted Amara as protected royal blood. Not queen. Not yet. But recognized. Safe. And one evening, under a quiet moon, Amara stood beside Lucien on the palace roof. "I don't know what I'll become," she admitted. Lucien nodded. "Neither do I." She looked at him. "But I'm not alone." Lucien's voice softened into something almost human. "No," he said. "You never will be again."